Time to talk a day. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Zach, let's get right into this, okay?
Okay.
Cam Coleman,
Very good.
very good. And if your recap of A-Day, I think, starts anywhere other than Cam Coleman being the legitimate identity changer of your offense, then you're doing it wrong. He's the headline coming out of A-Day.
I think so. Maybe if you want to give props to the defense, you can, but I'm with you. Cam Coleman, it starts and ends with Cam Coleman as far as what A-Day meant for the 2024 season. The bar has been raised for these wide receivers. You can tell a year ago, they put an emphasis on developing the offensive line, and what they've done in a year and a half in that offensive line room has been incredible.
Yeah.
This past offseason, the emphasis was on this wide receiver room. They had to flip the wide receiver room, and they've done it. Bringing in Cam Coleman and Bryce Cain through the high school ranks, and saw a little bit of Bryce Cain. Definitely saw more of Cam Coleman. And then, what they've done through the portal with Robert Lewis, who I thought was impressive. He led Auburn in catches on Saturday. And Sam Jackson, who, shame on me. I thought Sam Jackson was just kind of an ad. And we'll see what happens. I think he's going to be a player for Auburn. I think he's going to be a part of this offense. And then hats off to Camden Brown, who's really developed as a player as well. I was impressed with what we saw from him on Saturday too. So, yeah, Cam Coleman leading this wide receiver room that looks to be much better than a year ago. I'll take it.
Yeah, I thought Cam affected 4 other receivers in the game in that they weren't asked to be number one guys. We talked about it in our A-Day preview show that a lot of you watched, that what Cam does for the offense is he allows a guy who shouldn't be a number one guy to draw number one defenders to try to step up and be a number one SEC receiver. Now a guy who should be a 2 can be a 2, or a guy who should be a 3 can be a 3, and we'll see how the pecking order changes. Obviously, we'll get into the portal season, and the other freshmen will get to campus, and the breakdown of targets in this game is not necessarily reflective of what it'll be during the year, because Rivaldo Fairweather was targeted 1 time. Right. So, that probably looks different during the course of a regular offensive game plan. But I thought that Cam's presence on the field opened things up more for everybody else that you just mentioned. Cam Brown, Robert Lewis, specifically. Those guys were impacted the most.
Yeah, and the question is, okay, well, how much of what we saw Saturday matters? And I think you got to look at them all. You can't look at A-Day from, 10,000 feet up in the air staring down. I think you got to look at each individual player and the reps and what stood out to you. And Cam Coleman can win one-on-one battles. He can make contested catches, and his catch radius is what we thought it was. It's as long as his long arms are. And so that's encouraging. You look at Robert Lewis and his traits, it's like, okay, what we saw on Saturday with his ability to change direction, his ability to create space, his ability to get off the line of scrimmage and get into the route quickly, paired with what he's done at the college football level for the last 4 years. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. His path to playing time and path to production makes sense. And what Cam got 4 catches, Lewis got 5 catches. It's like, if you told me that's what they were going to get every game, it's like, yeah, I think that'd be fine. We've talked about this before, but like, if Robert Lewis could go 5 for 73 and Cam Coleman could go 4 for 92 every game, it's like, yeah, I feel really good about the season. Yeah. Is that applicable? Is that going to happen? I'm not quite there yet, because these stats look pretty good, because Auburn's offense was always on the field. This is kind of the way that they scored it. So I'm not entirely sold on like that's what we should expect. But from an individual traits point of view, you feel good about Cam, you feel good about Robert Lewis. And then Sam Jackson, weirdly, looks quicker with the ball in his hands versus when he doesn't have the ball, which is unusual for a receiver, but he's not like a developed receiver. He's played quarterback the last few years. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that I picked up on. But all in all, yeah, I'm excited about this room now.
Yeah, what Cam got targeted 7 times, had 4 catches, right? Camden Brown, 4 catches. And
Cam Brown got targeted 4 times for 3 catches for 45 yards. And then Robert Lewis was thrown to 8 times, 5 catches, and they scored 1 of them as a drop.
That's right. Okay. All right. So 5 for Lewis, 4 for Coleman, 3 for Brown, 2 for Jackson. I don't know that it necessarily, I don't think that you look at that as an average per game type situation. Because again, I think it's a big deal that they targeted Rivaldo once in the red zone.
Will Upton, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why you stopped. Why'd you stop?
I can't imagine why. I mean, Rico Walker got one. We talked Greg McConaughey and Dylan Gentry got targeted 5 times.
I'm a Rico Walker truther, by the way.
Yeah.
That's just where I am right now.
Okay.
That's the world I want to live in. Is the same one as Rico Walker. That's just I'm there. I'm there. Forget about the eclipse. I want more Rico Walker.
Okay. You can probably have more Rico Walker, especially in 2025.
Yeah.
But you're not going to target Rivaldo Fairweather the same number of times you target Rico Walker in a game, in a regular season game.
Nor should you. But the fact that like the tight end situation is what it is.
Yeah.
And there's a path to it looking good after Rivaldo Fairweather and Luke Deal run out of eligibility. It's like I like that. I like that a lot. It makes me excited. More excited than the eclipse.
We talked a little about that. I'm not into the eclipse deal.
No, let's don't talk about the eclipse.
I don't understand the eclipse hype. So,
but you understand the eclipse, right?
I know how the eclipse works. Yes, I got that. Thanks. I just don't understand like hiking and traveling and driving 500 miles to get into the path of totality.
Got it.
Village Vice is your
thoughts on the Masters, Brad.
We're not going there. We're not doing it.
Okay.
I'm not getting sucked into that.
Any French fries takes we want to jump into?
I don't mind talking French fries, just like chicken fingers are all pretty much the same.
Don't get me started. It's a
potato dipped in oil with some salt sprinkled on it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Listen, it doesn't matter. Right. No, they're all good. They're all the same.
They're not all good and they're not all the same. Stop it. Stop it. No way.
It's a fried potato with salt. Okay. So do you want your fried potato crinkle cut, or do you want your fried potato coated, or do you want it thick like steak fries, or do you want them stringy, or do you want whatever? At the end of the day, it's the side dish. It's not the main dish. It's the side. The French fry is the easy side dish, and they're all pretty much the same, and it only matters what you dip them in. Okay.
Got it.
Good. All right. Aside from from Cam Coleman in the wide receiver position, who do you think are some of the biggest winners in the A-Day game?
I'm going to go with the interior defensive line on this. And there's some caveats here, right? Like, once again, what we saw on A-Day is a very small part of the entirety of spring camp.
Yeah.
But I've kind of been hard on this defensive line group all spring. And then, in my opinion, they overperformed on Saturday. So I need to give them props. I think Jason Jones looked good. I think Trill Carter looked good. I think Gage Keys looked good. We saw Malik Blockton rotating in with the ones at times. I think that's important, especially when we talk about depth on this defensive front. So, yeah, the interior defensive line, I think all of those guys are winners.
Yeah. Keldrick Falk, 6'6", 281. I mean, my goodness. He's a problem. Interior, or if you put him out on the end. But, Jarquez Hunter had, 4 carries in the game? Let me go back to my final book. Jarquez, 4 carries, 6 yards. Obviously, he's more of a part of the offense than that. Jeremiah Cobb, 6 carries. Damari Alston, 6 carries. That's not you're not looking to compare apples and carries in the A-Day game. But in a regular season game plan, Jarquez is going to be a bigger focal point of the offense. Jarquez and Damari together are going to have more than 10 carries in any offensive game plan. I did think it was interesting, though, that the first offensive play was Peyton Thorne that gained yards. First positive play was Peyton Thorne on a scramble on a 1st and 19, I guess, after a holding penalty. And he goes 15 yards or so on a scramble. That part of the offense is not going away. It's not the zone read, but what he brings to the running game isn't going to go away just because they've upgraded at the receiver position.
Yeah. And I talked about this somewhere else too. Like, the nature of what A-Day is and like it not being fully live, I do think that hinders Peyton Thorne's ability a little bit, just because he has been effective with his legs. So yeah, I think plays like that are certainly a good thing. And you didn't really see that from any of the other quarterbacks. Hank may have had a run. Is that right? I'm trying to think of all of the kind of quarterback runs that we saw, but it wasn't a ton.
Right.
It wasn't a ton.
Yeah,
So
Walker and Holden had Walker had 3, but a net 7, a loss of 7. Holden 1 for -7. So not a lot otherwise. And those things impact the running game too, because when Peyton runs around the outside, you can't pinch down in the middle as much. You have to respect
yeah,
the outside leverage, and now your inside running game does better, and everything plays off of that.
Who do
But
you think? Who would you say was a winner outside of the receivers?
I thought Robert Woodyard had a good day at the linebacker spot.
He was my vote for defensive MVP. He didn't
Was
get
he?
it, but that's who I voted for. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he had a good spot. And I thought Auburn's secondary, I mean, they're not as proven, but they're so deep and talented. And I
Oh,
thought
they're
they had a pretty
good.
good day.
Yeah, they're going to be dynamic. They're going to be a problem for some teams,
Yeah.
and I think there's going to be times where they leave people open. I think there's going
Mhm.
to be full games where they're just shut down. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a fun group. And then them in 2025, they're going to be ready to rock and roll. The DBs are Rico Walker in 2025. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Seriously, I think you can see the path to like Auburn being competitive in the near future. I don't know if it's this year, Brad. I'm still not quite there yet. But as far as like the makeup of the roster, like there's so much talent. It's just young. It's just young, and it's only going to get better with time.
Yeah. And there's the other side of the guys who had good days. Like for the defensive line to win praise, if you're a pessimistic fan or you have a little bit of hesitation, then you go, well, does that mean the offensive line isn't going, do they feel the loss of Gunnar Britton and, some of those guys on the offensive line as much because now they're not as productive in the A-Day game or is it just that, no, against a pretty good offensive line, the defensive line really did have that good of a day? There are still a lot of unproven elements about the team.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will see, and we'll talk about this game for the next few weeks on the show. So be sure to be sure to subscribe. We'll keep it going. But there was a national story with college basketball that happened late last night. Were you still up, or did you wake up and see it?
I was no, I was still up when this started to break.
Got it. Yeah. So we'll talk about that and how it impacts Auburn in just a moment here on Village Vice. Today's show brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. MyBookie has, goodness, Brad, everything in the world. Yeah. I mean, you could possibly wager on. It's insane. It's insane. Obviously, baseball with MLB has picked up. The postseason is about here for the NBA. I think it's about here for the NHL as well. So regardless of what sport you're into, if you only are in college football world, you can go ahead and check out some of the futures for conference winners or Heisman winners, whatever it may be. But be sure to check it all out at mybookie.ag. And when you make that free account at mybookie.ag, use promo code next round. You'll get free money to bet with. And when you use the code, it makes the best sound ever. It goes bloop, bloop. That's just money being added to your account. So mybookie.ag, use promo code next round. Calipari leaving Kentucky, going to Arkansas. Insane. We were all kind of ragging Arkansas because they lost Musselman to USC. And it's like, why in the world is he doing that? And all of a sudden, Arkansas says, no, you're not going to laugh at me. You're not going to laugh at me. We have money. We promise we'll actually show you. And hey, it sounds like early reports were saying Cal's going to make like $8 million a year with an NIL role of like $5 million a year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Cal dressed in red up in Fayetteville.
Yeah, Arkansas used their chicken money and they went and got a classic car. I mean, a classic, a once elite, high value automobile. Hasn't really run at top speed for a good 5 years.
Uh-oh.
Not sure about the vehicle's ability to handle the current track. It's a very curious, so they go to Calipari after being turned down by Chris Beard and Jerome Tang at Kansas State. Then they go to Cal. I'm not so certain Kentucky doesn't wind up in a better spot after this. I think it's exactly what Kentucky wanted. And now they don't have to pay him a $33 million buyout. And now they have an opportunity to go get somebody who fits with their culture and is hungrier and, somebody who's just a better fit right now for where they want to go. Meanwhile, Arkansas's recruiting will get better. Nothing wrong with Kentucky's recruiting. What was wrong at Kentucky is they didn't win in the NCAA tournament.
Well, that's kind of the joke going around when that report came out that he'd get $5 million a year for NIL recruiting. And it's like, oh yeah, Cal finally be able to recruit. Like that was the problem.
Yeah. How much better an athlete is he going to get at Arkansas than what he was getting at Kentucky? Now, his team's in contention for SEC regular season championships. Sure. Most of the time in contention, you're there with 4 games to go in the conversation. All right. And I think he can do that at Arkansas. I think. But is he going to change the way he recruits? Is he going to change his game plan? I don't know. These are fascinating things. I can't wait to find out. I think Kentucky, regardless of who they hire, is in a better situation. The question that we have here that we talk about on Village Vice, how does this impact Auburn? There are some very real ways that it could. Like if they come and try to get Bruce, I don't think they're gonna. But why wouldn't you give him a call? He's one of the top coaches in college basketball.
I don't know if he fits.
I agree.
What you just described, right? Yeah. I don't know if that really makes a ton of sense unless it's just an ungodly amount of money, or maybe they want to promise, hey, bring your son. He could be the guy after you. Like, I think that would be intriguing, but I can't imagine if they were to call 3 coaches, I don't think he would be one of the first 3. That's just a hunch for me. I don't think it's a fit. And Kentucky, I'm sure, is aware of that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's why I also don't think Nate Oates is a personality fit at Kentucky. Like, think about the Rupp Arena environment. Think about the crowd. What comes to mind? It's wine and cheese. It's the older, established basketball fans, the Joe B. Hall, Goose Gibbons. It's been 54 years since Adolph Rupp was the head coach, but not so you'd really notice it, right? Mm-hmm. Oates doesn't fit that personality. He's perfectly suited for the fan base that he has right now. He's, newer basketball interest, brash, but not really with the gravitas to be brash, but he is anyway. Not like the most eloquent or discerning when he speaks publicly, but he wins, and that's really all that matters. So he's perfect where he is right now from a culture perspective. So I don't know. So here's, barring other SEC coaching fallback, can Auburn take advantage in the recruiting department? Aaron Bradshaw, the 7-1 center, has already announced he's in the transfer portal. Can the Tigers go get a big man? A big man, or anybody else off that roster who's not going to follow Cal to Arkansas? That's what to watch here in the next week.
Yeah, no question about it. And look, if I'm a center in the transfer portal and Bruce Pearl calls me, I answer.
100%.
100% of the time. Yeah. With what he's done with Kessler, with what he's done with Janai, there's no reason not to answer his call. So we'll see what that looks like. But right now, I think Musselman's a really good coach. I think that Arkansas losing Muss was a big deal. Yeah. I was happy when he's gone. I think Arkansas is going to be good, but they were already good. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be noticeably better. Kentucky, if they get the right guy, that could be a problem.
They'll be better. Yeah.
Kentucky's in a situation where they can be better. Arkansas, I think they may have more talent, but I don't know if they're going to be a better team year in and year out. I don't like Muss, but I think it's because he beat Auburn more than I like. He's a good coach, and I'm glad he's at USC now. So I'm not blown away by the Cal hire. I think it makes sense, and I think it was good for Arkansas to do because there's a national championship game tonight, and nobody cares anymore. It's who's Kentucky going to hire, which I think says something. Yeah. I think says something. So we'll see, but I think Auburn's standing in the conference probably doesn't change that much.
No, I don't think so either. It doesn't. I don't think Auburn's road got harder because Cal went from Kentucky to Arkansas.
No, it could get harder if they hire a Scott Drew or something. That could be a problem.
Maybe, probably. You go Musselman and Cal to Cal and Drew and no Musselman. Yeah, it's close though. It's close. They're just in different places.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's
Like I think
fascinating to
Muss
me.
might be a better coach,
Yeah,
but Drew at Kentucky, I think would be
yeah, the right mix, and I think
be a
he's a
force.
personality fit there too.
Yeah,
It's
I
it's
think it
not the
makes sense.
same crowd, but the Baylor crowd and the Kentucky crowd aren't all that dissimilar from a personality standpoint. They're not
If
the
you can
same in
win
their
it,
passion,
but
but
dude, if you can win at Baylor,
yeah,
like, whew.
yeah,
So we'll see. We'll see what
yeah.
happens. But Brad, that about does it for today's show.
It does. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.